Hey everyone, welcome to Upwards. Today's episode is special and deeply meaningful. We recently received the news of the passing of a true legend in the music industry, Brenton Wood. In light of this, we felt it was important to take a moment to honor his life, his legacy, and his remarkable contributions to music.
Yeah, it's been tough news for everyone in the music community. Brenton Wood wasn't just another artist, he was a pioneer who shaped soul music as we know it today. His passing really marks the end of an era.
I think what makes this particularly emotional for me is how his music touched so many lives. Adrian, you've always been our resident expert on soul music. I really want to understand more about the man behind those incredible songs.
Absolutely, Dee Dee. Today, we're going to honor Brenton Wood's memory by sharing his remarkable journey from his humble beginnings to becoming one of the most influential voices in soul music. His story is one of perseverance, creativity, and raw talent that deserves to be remembered.
I think that's exactly what our listeners need right now, a chance to understand and appreciate the full scope of his legacy. Where should we begin?
Well, let's start at the beginning. Brenton Wood was actually born as Alfred Jesse Smith in Shreveport, Louisiana back in 1941. And being born in the segregated South during that era wasn't easy for an African-American family.
I can only imagine the challenges they must have faced. What was life like for young Alfred during those early years?
It was incredibly tough. His family, like many others, dealt with the harsh realities of segregation, separate schools, restricted access to public spaces, limited opportunities. But there was one thing that provided solace during those difficult times: music.
Was that where his musical journey began?
Exactly. The church played a huge role in his early musical development. He was surrounded by gospel music from a very young age, and it really shaped his distinctive vocal style. His family also introduced him to blues and jazz, which you can definitely hear in his later work.
And at some point, they made the move to Los Angeles, right? That must have been a significant change.
That move to LA was absolutely pivotal. His family, like many others during that period, was part of the Great Migration West, looking for better opportunities. In Los Angeles, young Alfred had access to a much more diverse music scene, and that's where he really started developing his skills as a musician.
What drew him to the piano specifically? I know that became an important part of his musical identity.
The piano actually became his first real connection to creating music. He started taking lessons after they moved to LA, and it wasn't just about learning the instrument. It was about understanding music theory, composition, and really finding his own voice. You can hear that musical foundation in how he structured his later hits.
And all of these early experiences, the gospel, the blues, the piano training, they all came together to create that unique Brenton Wood sound we came to know and love, didn't they?
Absolutely. It's fascinating how those early influences, the emotional depth of gospel, the rawness of blues, and his classical piano training all merged to create something completely unique. But the road to success wasn't straightforward, and that's where the story gets really interesting.
So Adrian, this is where we get to the transformation from Alfred Smith to Brenton Wood. What sparked that change?
By the early 60s, he'd been performing under his birth name, but success was hard to come by. The music industry was incredibly competitive, and despite his talent, doors kept closing. He realized he needed something that would make him stand out.
And that's when Brenton Wood was born?
Exactly. It's actually a fascinating story. The name came from two sources: his deep appreciation for classical composer Antonin Dvorak and the affluent Los Angeles neighborhood of Brentwood. He saw it as a way to reinvent himself, to create an identity that would capture people's attention.
Those early days must have been really challenging, though. I mean, even with a new name, success doesn't just happen overnight.
You're absolutely right. He faced countless rejections from record labels. He'd go to auditions, perform his heart out, only to hear no time and time again. But what's remarkable about Brenton was his resilience. He kept writing, kept performing at small clubs, kept refining his sound.
That takes incredible strength to keep going in the face of so much rejection.
It really does. And you know what's particularly interesting? During this period, he was developing that signature style we all came to love. That smooth, soulful voice combined with those catchy melodies. He was actually using those rejections as fuel to perfect his craft.
Was there a particular moment when things started to turn around?
Well, he caught a break when he started working with small local labels in LA. He'd record singles here and there, and while they weren't hits, each one taught him something about the recording process, about what worked and what didn't. He was building the foundation for what would eventually become his breakthrough success.
Adrian, let's talk about the moment everything changed for Brenton Wood. What was that breakthrough hit that finally put him on the map?
It was the Oogum Boogum song in 1967 that really launched his career. The song had this infectious groove and playful lyrics that just captured people's imagination. It reached number 19 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 34 on the R&B charts, which was huge for an artist who had struggled for so long.
The title is so unique. Was there a story behind that?
Actually, yes. Wood came up with the phrase Oogum Boogum to describe that indescribable feeling of falling in love. He wanted to capture that almost magical sensation in a way that hadn't been done before. It was completely original, and that's part of what made it so special.
And then came Gimme Little Sign, which became an even bigger hit, right?
Absolutely. Gimme Little Sign was released the same year and became his biggest hit ever. It reached number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100 and was a massive success internationally. What's fascinating about this song is how it came together. It was actually recorded in just 2 takes.
Only 2 takes? That's incredible. What made that song so special?
It was the perfect combination of Wood's smooth vocals, a catchy melody, and relatable lyrics about wanting reassurance in love. But what really set it apart was his delivery, that gentle, pleading quality in his voice that made the song feel so personal. The production was also remarkably clean and modern for its time.
And these songs had such staying power too. They're still beloved today.
They really are. Both songs have been featured in numerous films, TV shows, and commercials over the decades. They've been covered by countless artists, and that distinctive Oogum Boogum phrase has become part of popular culture. What's remarkable is how fresh they still sound today, more than 50 years later.
And that's where we'll pause for now in exploring the incredible life and legacy of Brenton Wood. Thank you for joining us in this celebration of his journey. Be sure to watch episode 2, where we dive even deeper into his inspiring music, the stories behind his biggest hits, and the lasting impact he's had on the world.